What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and welcome if you're new here. I'm Nod. Today be taking a look at my regionals top 8 deck list for Melodious Ryzeal. It's a deck that I've covered before on the channel, which I then took to the regionals due to my confidence in its ability to take on its contemporary decks, which are Malice, Fiendsmith Ryzeal, and the Pure Ryzeal deck. Alright, so let's swiftly go over the matchups that I had. So the first round I had Bystial as Amina, which was a bit annoying because I activated Ostinato and he had like 3 Bystials in hand, and he pretty much like grabbed up all of my Melodious cards that were in the grave, so I couldn't get to go into Duo Drive to go into my Ryzeal combo. My second matchup was Tenpai Keshtira Fiendsmith, which, as you know, it's Tenpai, which if you go first, you're dealing with Tenpai, and if you choose to send him second, now you'd have to deal with Keshtira Fiendsmith, which is equally as oppressive as the Tenpai aspect of the deck. The third round I had White Forest as Amina, which you shouldn't really have a problem with this deck. However, depending on what you draw as hand traps going up against them, you might discover a few difficulties. I did lose this round though, because I lost the game 1 and then game 2 I was going first, and I made a bad decision of discarding the ogre and saving my Hole Thruster because I had hope in it, and due to that bad decision my opponent broke my board easily. Pretty much he opened like Lightning Storm and Book of Eclipse, which if I had saved the ogre I would have addressed the toy box that he activated in the turn. Alright, so for the fourth round I played against Mimighoul Fiendsmith. It's a fairly annoying deck, however if you know the hit points of the deck you can effectively counter it, because their field spell stops you from normal summoning if you have a face down monster, where if you open something like X you can always just send Aggregator and negate it. They'll also have something on the field which would be like the Caesar, which is oppressive, so you'd have to choose between the Caesar and the field spell, which it depends on what your hand looks like, you choose effectively. So for the fifth round it was Fire King as Amina, which as you can see I have Shifter in my side deck, so it didn't really pose any problems, and Shifter doesn't really affect this deck either. You might be looking at the Ostinato cards and think that, yo, this guy's wildin'. However, it doesn't really affect the deck at all because you play perfectly fine into Shifter. There's even a combo where you can Shifter and then use Detonator to attach the Shifter, and then use Small World to search another Shifter to have your opponent under 4 turns of Shifter pretty much. As for the final one, it was Ryzeal Fiendsmith. I must agree that I had played bad in this round and it cost me dearly, so I lost this one. Now with that out of the way, let's get on into the rest of the video. Alright, so what we have here is nothing really far from your standard list. As you can see, we still have our yugioh ratios for our Ryzeals, which is 3 Ice, Sword, X, and the 1 Node, along with our Ryzeal Cross, and with the plugin and the Plasma Hole. As for the Melodious package, we have a triple Ostinato, 1 Concerto, 1 Couplet, 1 Refrain, 1 Soprano, and 1 Cannon. These are all important for your bridge into the Ryzeal package, and these 2 are just standard for the Melodious engine pretty much. As for the non-engine, we have 2 Bonfire, 2 Small World, 2 Thrust, 1 Gravediggers, 3 Imperm, 3 Ash, 2 Droll, 2 Ogre, 2 Veiler. Alright, so we don't really need to explain the bonfires, but for the Small World, it's pretty simple in the deck. If you open something like a Droll, you can go Droll into Ogre, and then it gets you to either one of your light monsters that doesn't have more than 1 similarities with the Ogre, which I doubt any of them do. As for the Ash line, you just go Ash into Veiler, into any one of your light. It's the same thing as the Droll. Now for the Veiler line, you can go Veiler into Ash and into any of your fire. You can also do that with the Droll as well, because it has 0 attack that matches up with your Ash. So you can go Droll into Ash into any one of your fires. It all depends on what you want. And if you're like in a spot where you open one of your Melodious monsters that doesn't really do anything and you have the Small World, right, let's say you open like Soprano, you can always go Small World Soprano into Veiler, and then that can just get you to either one of your like Ryzeal monsters. Because there was a match where all of my Melodious monsters were banished already due to the Bystials, and I just top deck the cannon and I had Small World, so I just used the Small World to banish the cannon, banish the Veiler, because at this point in time I don't really want the Veiler, and then just get to my ice, and then I went on to combo. So as for the side deck, we have Double Bell, Triple Winter Cherries because the mirror is a thing. And if you can just go Winter Cherries on a dual drive or even a detonator, it'd be crazy. But most likely it would be the detonator, because if they get to the dual drive and they use the dual drive's effect, then they're just getting either this or even this. But the most oppressive card of their end board is the detonator, because it's the one that's going to attach the aggregator from the graveyard, and it's the one that'll have the materials for your cross to detach and negate. So you can just wait until they do this, and then you just hit them with the cherries, or at any point in time. If you're playing like against the Fiendsmith, then you can just use the cherries on the Existent Knight, so they won't be able to access their Fiendsmith package without using Engraver's effect in the hand to discard and search for track. We have Shifter, as I said before. It doesn't really affect your deck. It doesn't affect the Ryzeal nor the Melodious package, because most of the times you're just going to use them to go into a rank 4 that can stop your opponents from doing something. Something to note though, Rafflesia can't activate under Shifter because it has to send the card to the graveyard. We have 3 ultimates there. As you can see, we have 3 targets in the extra deck, double D barrier and 2 strike. I was thinking of probably playing 3 strike because it's a really good card, to be honest. As for the extra deck, so let's see that we're close to the Slayer targets. Let's just go over them. We have Reject for our links. When it's sent to the graveyard, you can draw a card and then put a card from your hand into the deck. We have our Pat Bit, which is an excellent removal. When it's sent to the graveyard, you can just target a monster on your opponent's field and then turn that monster into a continuous trap card. And I think if you do, you discard a card. Then you have Aggregator, which you can also send off your Ryzeal cards. Double Detonator, Double Dual Drive, the Dugaris, and Ray Lancer. This is an OTK combo on its own. You just go summon Ray Lancer and then double its attack with Dugaris, and then you attack twice. And this downs all your opponent's monsters by 500. We have Rafflesia, Dweller, Existent Knight, and as for our Melodious, we have Double Baka and 1 Ryzeal. If you made it this far into the video, you can just leave a like. Also, if you're interested in seeing more videos from us, and if you want to see more videos from us in the future, you can subscribe to the channel. So let's go over the combo for this deck on a whole. So what we're going to do is Ostinato. So we go Ostinato's effect. We're going to send Couplet and Refrain to summon Baka. Baka is going to trigger to special from the deck, which will special summon our Soprano. Soprano is going to target the Couplet in the grave to add to hand. And seeing that the Couplet is added to the hand, you can special summon a Melodious monster from your hand or graveyard. I targeted the Refrain in the grave. However, Couplet doesn't target whatever it's special summoning because it specials from the hand or grave. So now Refrain is going to trigger and summon, adding us a Melodious monster from our deck, which will add the cannon. We're going to scale the Couplet, and we're going to add Concerto. We go Soprano. We're going to fuse for Ryzeal. I forgot to summon Ryzeal, but I'll summon it in a minute. So what we have right here is our Baka targeting our Soprano in the grave, which is chain link 1, and then our Refrain chain link 2. And then right here, I summon the Ryzeal, which I should have summoned before all of that chain link. Now I special summon the cannon from the hand and go into dual drive. Also, what you could do, you could use the Concerto first before you go dual drive. So if they had something like a nib, then you can just dodge it and you don't have to get a token. And if you have any like Ryzeal in hand, you can just normal summon, just play without, regrets. But I summoned a dual drive here, which you could say it's bad, but see that I'm going to fuse afterwards. So I go Concerto, which, as you know, I only play like double Baka and 1 Ryzeal. So the reason why we summon a second Baka is due to the fact that when you control a fusion summon Baka, your Melodious fusion monster's effect cannot be negated. So if they try to like stop Ryzeal by like impermanent or something, or even droplets, they'd have to address this as well. So that would be like an additional card. And it's just the bunks too, which is good. Also, if your opponent were to like Raigeki your field, you can protect your dual drive and your XCs with your detonator. However, you can't protect your Melodious monsters. So if this were to get destroyed, then this will reborn this guy, and then this can special summon something from the deck, which we don't really play. So, but if we did play something else, like even a Shiberta, then this will be the able to special summon the Shiberta from the extra deck, and then you have 2 Melodious regions on the field, and this time we'll have a banish 3. All right, so let's continue. So we use our Equal's effect to clear the field. We could have done that like afterwards, but it's safe to do it from now. So we're gonna add the X, and we're going to add the cross. So we're gonna go X, then in aggregator, X's effect. You can still go X1 aggregator 2 to target the dual drive. I'm gonna add sword. So now sword's effect. We're going to add our ice. I'm going to activate our cross. And then we're going to go into our detonator first, targeting the aggregator to attach. Afterwards, we're going to go ice. All right, so right here, you can go node if you had like an additional Ryzeal in the grave or something. If you made a Ryzeal go to the grave before. But seeing that we didn't have a Ryzeal in the grave, which we can't activate node's effect unless we have a valid target, I summon another X because I don't want to be wasting my node Ryzeal. So now I can go into my Raphaelia. Like the reason why we go into Raphaelia now and not earlier is because once I had summoned the 2 monsters and went into detonator, cross is already protecting the field from nib, so I don't really have to care about that. So now the Raphaelia is really for like either if my opponent tries to do anything funny in their turn, I can always go a pop 2 by sending Plasma Hole, or which came up a lot in the event, my opponent activate Engraver in the hand to add, then I just activate Raphaelia's effect, send Engraver, negate the Engraver, and burn my opponents for 2000. And that kind of mitigates the issue of playing Strike, because Strike you have to pay 1500 while your Gravedigger is burning your opponents for 2k, so you're still up by about 500. And then in the end phase, your Melodious monsters will return. Alright, so what we have here is a bounce 2 of your Melodious. You have a pop 2 and essentially a negate from cross, along with a negate from the aggregator that's attached. And you also have either a pop 2 via Plasma Hole or a negate of a monster card in the hand or graveyard using your Raphaelia. And that'll be it for the video today, guys. Alright, see you guys next time.